Had a little listen to his podcast, huh?
Dude, it's educational. And besides, I've been wanting to listen to this one.
Welcome to Idling in the Impala, a podcast by and for lovers of supernatural and the fan fiction it inspires. Before we begin, just want to remind you to like, subscribe, follow wherever you listen to us so you don't miss any episodes or bonus stuff that we do. I'm Sandra.
I'm Karlee. And, I was going to say that we just throw our hands up and admit that we have a ranking things problem, but that is not technically true for this episode because while we have lists, we have not ranked them. Therefore, this does not qualify. You cannot put this in the Karlee and Sandra need ranking rehab. All right? Not this one. Just this one specific episode. So, because we have a problem with ranking things, we were like, shit, what else can we rank? And oh god, it was way back in one of our other ranking things. It was in a Sam's and Dean's episode, I think. And I was one of us was like, oh, we should do like act. It was probably me because I'm the one that comes up with these stupid ideas. And then Sandra's like, yeah, we should do that. And I'm like, okay. So anyway,
that's stupid. They get us thinking. It's good. It's good.
So I had the thought. I'll take ownership for it. I had the thought that we should put together like peak acting moments for Jared and Jensen because we ranked like our favorite Sams and our favorite Deans, and then we traded lists. And Sandra's real fucking lucky there's an ocean between us. And no, I don't think Ireland is between us. I think it's a little bit lower down the country. Anyway, there's an ocean, and I'm lazy, so she's real lucky. But we decided that while we were going to make lists of our favorite, the show is great all the way across, but those moments that really fucking got us when we were watching it, we weren't going to order them from favorite to least favorite or anywhere else. So you will be pleased to know, guys, that I have stuck to form and I have a list with 10 bullet points on it, 5 for Jared and 5 for Jensen. Sandra has, wait right there, why didn't you it reloaded a 5-page document with episodes and seasons and the start time of the scene that she's referencing and a description of the scene and why she likes it. And she's got runner-ups and special shout-outs. So you will be pleased to know that while doing FVF, you got to see some of my impeccable fucking admin skills. I remain a chaotic goblin who does not prep for things properly. But nevertheless, I don't need this. I will just, y'all know what I'm going to talk about. So it's fine. I don't need timestamps and things like that.
They don't know what you're going to talk about. That's why they're listening.
Yeah, but when I start talking about them, they're not going to be like, I don't know what scene you're referencing. Like, could you please provide me?
Oh, so you're saying it's just so obvious that these would be peak that it's going to be just like right there. I gotcha now.
Right. Kind of. I hope so. Okay. I hope so.
Yeah, so, I have a feeling I went a different way.
Well, no. See, I prep this impeccable, masterpiece of a document, 10 bullet points, a couple of weeks ago. Well, I was on a kick. I had prepped something big for the podcast, and I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna prep this and something else while I'm here. So I had done mine, and then Sandra was like, left it until like yesterday.
A couple of days ago, yeah, I started. And then I realized it was a bad idea to start. Like I should have started sooner than that.
But then she threw at me, I'm going to try and pick things that aren't as obvious. And I was like, well, shit, all mine are real obvious. So
No, I love that though. I love that we have different ways. Cause I just feel like, how sometimes like I beat a scene to death, or I beat, like when we talk about certain episodes, it's just like, that scene, like some things you can't help. But I was like, I really tried to just, what are some like smaller moments, I guess, in my head that I thought maybe are still really good acting moments that maybe just kind of, because of all the other great acting, kind of get overshadowed. But yeah, I totally get it. I totally get it. I'm seeing it all and I'm understanding all of it. And honestly, some of it too was like, I'm going to let Karlee have their Jared moment first and then see if there's any other runner. Like I have a feeling I would pick a lot of the same ones too. And I would have. So I was like, okay. Yeah. Totally.
No, that's fair enough. So just before we begin, again, these are in random order. They are not best to worst or worst to best or anything like that. Believe me, Sandra has watched the show about 4 times fully through, and I've only seen it fully through once. So my references are not as strong as hers. So I struggled to do, to pick the 5, not because I don't think Jared and Jensen are incredible actors, just because I'm not as familiar with all the separate episodes and things that Sandra is. So I could not have done this and then gone, oh, here's a runner-up and here's a runner-up and blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
So these are not in any particular order. And also, these do not necessarily represent favorite scenes of mine,
Mm-hmm.
just scenes that I think the acting is fucking incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, it goes without saying that me and Sandra both think Jared and Jensen are incredible actors. And if we don't pick your particular favorite Jared or Jensen scene, it's not because we don't think it's good. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's only so much time in a day, guys. We'd be here forever if we tried to rank every single moment.
Hence my 5-page document that really I needed to slap myself at some point. I'm like, stop, just stop.
Well, if I had known that you were doing that, I would have intervened and gone, Sandra, please look at my document. It's 10 bullet points. Get your shit together. But, you know, such is the nature. I am the Chaotic Goblin. Hello, Bubba. The podcast mascot has elected to join us. He may or may not meow. You may or may not be privileged to hear him. Hi, Bubs. But unfortunately, I can't not recognize him because he's standing right next to me.
Gotcha.
So I will go first with my favorite Jared moments, and then Sandra is going to go with her favorite Jared moments and all her various runner-ups and different prizes that she's given out to various different moments. But the first thing on my list, again, not ranked in order, anything like that, is Sam and John's fight in season 1. So it's the first iteration of what I have coined Sam's Dom voice, you know, where it gets real deep in his chest, and he goes from like a little golden retriever puppy dog to like a fucking Rottweiler. Like, by the way, I owned a Rottweiler at one point. They are babies. They are not scary. They are they are babies. But you know, like a like a police dog on duty, let's say, or a guard dog on duty.
Yeah.
And it's just it's so powerful because in the middle of, you know, he's lost his life at college, he's grieving his girlfriend, he's trying to fucking adjust to everything that's going on. Like, Dean's come back and they're trying to like kind of find their equilibrium, and then you throw John in the mix and you could just see all this pent up anger, and it has been building from watching Dean just yes sir, no sir, 3 bags full sir on the phone with John, and it's just built and built and built. And, you know, and it just explodes in this, you know, you did this, you closed that door, you said don't come back. And I think it's so powerful. And as well, not that Jared was a new actor, you know, he'd been acting for quite a few years before he came on Supernatural. He was still a young kid. You know, he still would have been 23, between 22 and 24. That's still a baby in my eyes. I was a baby at 24, you know? And while there's not the age difference between Jared and Jensen and Jeff that the show would have you believe that is still a relatively young kid having to be really quite aggressive to someone older, you know? And you obviously don't know the relationship that Jared and Jensen and Jeff had off screen. I know they're all really good friends. But I imagine as a, you know, a kid, a baby, a young 20-something, that was probably quite intimidating to have to, you know, really like puff your chest out and pull your shoulders back and, you know, really dig for that. I imagine that was probably quite difficult to do. I don't know if I could have hauled off on somebody even acting.
Well, I think just in
age.
general too. I mean, considering like he's the lead on Supernatural, you know, so for him to have started it out too, you know, like you said, like what, 22 or 23 years old, that's a lot of pressure anyway. So yeah, then add that to him having to act out a lot of different scenes, a lot of range of emotion in the first season. He goes through a lot in the first, I mean, they go through a lot in every season. Yeah. But I mean, to go from even say like, you know, Gilmore Girls to this kind of a show, which, you know, is a lot heavier in terms of, I would say it's still drama, you know, it's got some lighter moments, but it's just in this different vein altogether. And so he's having to tap into a lot of stuff. So yeah, I totally agree. That's a really good example. Yeah. Yeah.
So the next one on my list, and I just put down the episode title. So it's all of clap your hands if you believe, basically. But I suppose if you had to pin it down, it would either be like the fight at the end with the leprechaun, or, you know, do you have bigger cups, or, you know, my brother was abducted. No, I've had time to get the whole thing, guys. The whole thing. I can't pick. one scene. And I've referenced Clappy Hands, if you believe, in so many different other rankings, and I come back to it a lot because it is one of my favorites, and it is, it's lighter, soulless, and it's funny. But I think it speaks so much to Jared's acting, knowing that being soulless was difficult, like a headspace and acting space for him to get into. It had been like quite heavy, like the secret that he's keeping from his brother and everything that's going on with the Campbells. And then, like Dean finds out about the soul, and then it's like a battle between him and Dean, like, we're going to get your soul back. I don't want my soul back. So to take all this like quite heavy acting and push all of that to the side and do this really quite light-hearted episode, because it's, it's funny. It's not, in the grand scheme of things, Dean gets abducted, but then he gets brought straight back, there's no real lasting consequences from Clappy Hands, if you believe.
It's not end of the world scenario situation.
Yeah.
Like, it's giving him a chance to explore the character a little bit more.
Exactly. And it's just, it's just like a monster of the week. And for him to be able to pull off the exact same like tone of Soulless, but keep it light and, make jokes, and like the whole thing with the girl when Dean comes back and he's eyeing up the waitress, and I fucking love that episode. I think and I especially think, knowing what I know now about how difficult a headspace that was for Jared to be in, to be able to be in that heavy headspace and still keep it light and funny, I think is really, really impressive. Next on my list is White Suit Samafer. Now, I am on record as saying I'm not a big fan of White Suit Samafer, and I'm not. It's too heavy-handed. I can see what the writers were going for, but they missed the mark by a long shot. But that does not take away in any capacity Jared's incredible acting in that scene. Just, chef's kiss, gold star. It's perfect. And again, I think actually knowing that Jared found it quite difficult to get into these headspaces maybe have influenced my decision. But then, if that were true, Mystery Spot would be on this list. And it's not. It's a spoiler. It's not. Not that Jared didn't do incredible acting, but it didn't hit the top 10.
Yeah.
But this is just, it's just this brief little snapshot. It'll always end here. It'll always end in Detroit. And it's just like, and like I've said that the way the scene was written was really too heavy-handed, but you cannot deny that he is incredible in that scene. And we've talked about, when we did our peak Sams and our peak Deans, how much Jared can be Sam but not Sam, and it's a completely different person. Right. And that's why I had like plaid Samafer and white suit Samafer, because they're not the same. And that it's just, I don't like the scene, but I love his acting in it, like 100%. Number 4, although it's not number 4, but the 4th on my list is Rowena's death scene from season 15. Now we've lost a lot of people, and we've seen Sam and Dean grieve a lot of people, but that one was personal. And the way that she comforts him, and the way that she says, like it's going to be okay, and don't worry about it. I'm not scared. You shouldn't be scared. Blah blah blah. You can really feel. I think at that point it's been quite a long time since Sam or Dean had to kill like a guest star. I'm thinking. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm thinking the last one might have been Gadriel, Sam, and Kevin.
Yeah. Or the only one I'm thinking of, and it wasn't directly, but indirectly, would have been Crowley, like with the whole, like them getting back, him having to sacrifice himself situation. But that was end of season 12. And they didn't seem to have as much, they should have. They didn't seem to grieve as much as they should have for Crowley. But that's a whole other topic. It's been a while.
It's been a minute. Yeah. All the deaths have come from outside the house, so to speak. So this, I read a lot into Sam and Rowena's relationship that maybe isn't necessarily shown on screen. So y'all know my headcanon is there was some fun being had behind the bookcases between those two, but also that it was a student teacher or a student mentor kind of
Yeah.
relationship, not just this one semi-friendly witch that we keep mostly on our good side. You know, I see more in that relationship. And, you know, for Sam to yet again have to sacrifice someone he cares about
and
lose something for the greater good.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's seeing Jared do like real tears. And I'm like, oh baby. No.
Yeah.
No, snuggle, please. Please come here.
Yeah.
So, and I cried at that scene. I love Rowena, you know, the woman who lived, so to say. So just, it's real powerful, you know, and it's especially in the scope of everything else that's going on that episode. And we pull real close into these two characters saying goodbye.
Mm-hmm.
And it's wonderful. It's wonderful. You know, all the props to Jared, all the props to Ruth. It's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
It is beautiful. And then the last scene, you know, moment that made it onto my list. And again, I did not know that we were doing participation awards and runner-up prizes and all that shit. I might have spent a little bit longer, but I'm sure when we move over to Sandra's list, I'll be like, oh, fucking hell, I forgot that. But it's the church scene for the trials, which is at the end of season 8.
Sacrifice, that episode. Yeah.
Sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, and I mean, this really could have gone to Jared or Jensen equally. But you know that I love when he's in pain and tired and maybe crying a little bit.
Right.
I don't have a problem. Shut up, guys. But also I have a lot of problems with that scene, and I have a lot of problems with that season in general, because Dean fully stands there at that moment and lies. Mm-hmm. And I feel like Sam has to know that. Because we've spent the whole season of him sneaking around and lying to Sam and, you know, like almost cheating on him with Benny. And then he stands there in that fucking church at the end and goes, there is nothing I would put before you. And I'm like, oh my God, you fucking liar, though. You fully did. And I always wonder if Jared played that with that in Sam's mind, that Dean was lying. I'd love to cause some discourse at a con with that question. But it's been so long now, they'd both be like, the what scene in the what now?
What? No, we don't watch it as much as you do.
Yeah, y'all need help. Please stop. But it's, again, another situation where Sam is willing to sacrifice and lose for the greater good. And he's there. He's fully there. He's ready to go. And it's so, so powerful. So, you know, maybe I still think these are all really great acting moments for Jared, but maybe I picked the moments that resonated with me the hardest. But that one for sure, when he's just, he's so tired and so broken.
Yeah.
And I really like it when he's like that. And I'm sorry.
Is it kind of too just like the giving up, like part of it too? Like he's just ready to do whatever it is he has to do situation in there?
I think it's as well that he comes out of the confessional and he's like, you know what, I confessed that I wasn't a good enough brother. And he's, you know, we're like
still
8 seasons.
Yeah,
8 seasons into this fucker. And he's still thinking that he's not good enough, or that Dean deserves better. And that just hits me, you know. And that, like, I identify real fucking strong with the concept that people's lives would be better if I weren't in them, because I'm just so much trash. Don't hit me. Nobody yell at me, especially Sandra. I'm gonna get yelled at when this recording is over now. But I identify with that. So the concept of Sam being like, well, and especially in the back of all the Benny stuff as well, like, I'm not good enough, you know, he deserves better. He's got a better brother than me. So I'll just sacrifice myself and close the gates of hell. It's just, I just want to squish him up in a little burrito.
Yeah.
I just want to put him in a little burrito and just be like, sit there until you're not sad.
Aw.
So those are my top acting moments. And again, they are not my favorite scenes in the show, even my favorite episodes in the show, except for Clap Your Hands If You Believe, but I will not be taking questions about that at this time.
Yeah.
So, but those are mine. So let's see what Sandra has on her list.
Okay, so season 2, episode 14, Born Under a Bad Sign. Basically just Meg Sam did an outstanding job.
Did you have
with that character?
Did you have a specific scene in mind for that, or just the episode in general?
He's really creepy and awful when he says, "My daddy shot your daddy in the head." Yeah.
Yes.
That's a pretty
absolute peak.
Yeah.
Yes.
Season 2, episode 17, Heart. It's just at the end when he's got to kill Madison, and Dean's like, "I'll do it," and he's like, "No, this is on me."
And he's in tears. And it's awful. And it's got that fucking song. And then it's just all quiet. And then just bang. Yep.
So,
all right.
Season 5, episode 22, Swan Song. I've got him, Dean. Pretty much it.
Yeah.
Season 8, episode 21, The Great Escapist, when he feels unpure, that whole walking down the hallway scene. I thought you were going to
Why didn't I remember that one? Son of a bitch.
I thought between that one and maybe Meg Sam, I thought those were two you would pick. Also, you picked one of the ones I decided was a runner-up was season 15, episode 3, The Rupture with Sam and Rowena. Just Ruth does amazing things in that scene, but I think Jared counterbalances her in an amazing way too. He shows his inner struggle, but then you also see the care and love that he's developed for, of all people, Crowley's mother over 5 seasons. So I think all of that is pretty impressive. My last runner-up was season 14, episode 12, Profit and Loss. This is when drunk Sam is at the end of his rope with Dean, who's intent on nailing himself into the Malik box to trap Michael forever. One of his lines in it is, "Why don't you believe in us too?" I look at this scene a lot now because I know how difficult it was for Jared to perform this scene. It's mentioned in a con in particular and how he just couldn't get it. He needed to, Jensen was like, I've never seen him like that before. He wasn't in the zone. Like he had to walk it off. We were like, and he finally got it. And when he did, it was just on point and everything about it. But I feel like you see the struggle in him in the acting. Yeah. So I think that's kind of a moment when, I'm thinking kind of like how you are with the bloopers. Like I think about the process of the acting and then what came out of it. And I think, like he hits Dean and then they hug and he's just like wrapped around him so tight. And it's just like he's holding on to him for dear life and he doesn't want him to let go, he wants to believe in them the way that, he almost like, "You've always done this, Dean. You've always told me to believe. Why can't you do it too?" So those were my runner-ups. You can tell this took a while. I've got my 5. So season 9, episode 3, I'm No Angel. I had to throw in a scene of Jared bouncing between Ezekiel / Gadriel and Sam. It's pretty much almost like, I wouldn't say it's like a one camera shot, but it's these moments when he's in a scene starting off as Sam. They pan past Dean and he's Ezekiel. Then they do it again. They have him go back from Ezekiel to Sam. I love that. It's like my favorite Gadriel, like Sam playing that part, because it's just it's immediate. You see it. It's right there. It's right in front of you. No matter how many times you may have had to do it, what they got was gold. And that's what again, we talk about Jensen and sometimes his micro performances. I feel Jared's very macro, and that you get to see it all in that scene, how his whole body changes with that scene and that performance.
And there's like zero overlap. It's and especially in that scene when it's, same hair, same clothes, same moment, but there is zero overlap between Sam and Gadriel. And I think that's one of Jared's most incredible talents. And that is not to say that Dean Jensen cannot also do that, but we got so fewer opportunities to see Jensen do that. That you kind of default to it being one of Jared's major acting skills, just by dent that we saw it more. But that's a great one. Yeah.
Then it's season 10, episode 18, The Book of the Damned. I noticed I picked a lot of more often than not, they were scenes with somebody besides Dean. And this one is Sam chats with Charlie about the life. And one of his lines is, "But I can't do it without my brother." So again, Sam's
Maybe.
showing vulnerability. He doesn't have to match the toughness of Dean in a moment like this. So it's subtle. Like in this situation, it's subtle acting, but it's very memorable. And he gets teary-eyed. It's not full on, but he gets teary-eyed. And it's just like,
Just a little mist.
yeah. It's just very, very. I like it when they bare their souls too. And when they do it with other people, I feel like it's more authentic sometimes because I feel like they're always holding back with each other.
I feel like that's probably like everybody says there are certain moments that are Jensen and not Dean. Like Yellow Fever is Jensen fucking about. The moment, the brief moment. It's an episode 8. It's a season 8 episode. I can't remember what it is. But Jared comes out of his room in the bunker and his hair's all fluffy. It's Charities when he's in the trials, and Jensen's like, "I'm telling you, man, 5 minutes with some clippers." And it's an improv line from Jensen, and everybody's like, "I knew that wasn't Dean. I knew it was Jensen."
Yeah.
I think that goes the other way sometimes as well, and that, but I can't do it without my brother, was probably more Jared than Sam in the moment, which obviously lends a lot of authenticity to it, but also I'm gonna just wrap him up in a burrito. Just put him somewhere after this, baby.
The next one I had was season 11, episode 8, Just My Imagination. It's when Sam tells Sully that he thinks God wants him to go back to the cage. It's a discussion they're just having, and it's I thought I wrote more, but like I think I was about to, and then something distracted me because that's all I wrote there. But I think it's because he folds in on himself. He becomes very childlike, and he goes back to those moments when he had this imaginary friend that he could talk to about all of his fears and his uncertainty and stuff like that. And, Sully uses his ever think line to him, and you could see his face. It sparks of like innocence in a way that you don't see in Sam very often. His like attentiveness to everything Sully's telling him and Sully's asking him like, well, what do you think? What do you feel? And he doesn't get that all the time, if ever, with Dean. And I think to have that exchange, it's just so very sweet. And somebody who believes like, well, Sam, whatever I think you think is the right thing to do, I think you should do it. And I think Sully asks him, ever think about running away anymore? And he kind of is like, no, I haven't for a while. I haven't for a long time. So I think that says a lot about Sam's growth. But yet seeing him just, again, it's very, you have to pay attention to it, right? Because like we've talked too about how Jared probably just being so tall and everything probably just doesn't like taking up a lot of space in general, or feels like he's taking up a lot of space sometimes. But this one, he's literally like just in the chair, like curled in a little bit. And it's like, so he doesn't appear as big, in that moment. He's just like, it's all of the Sam from when he was younger. And it's just really, it's not a really big scene. It's not a very standout scene, but it's quiet acting that's really great. So I think that's why I picked that out. And that's just a great episode. I mean, that's just a great episode in general, but it's so many great parts, but it's just a great episode. Season 13, episode 12, Various and Sundry Villains. This is when Sam and Rowena talk about their similar abuse at the hands of Lucifer. They're in Baby. Dean's gone, figuring stuff out. And I wrote, there's an openness to Sam that I don't think we see very often. As much as there are the bromance between the brothers, it always seems like he can express a little more to others. Maybe because he doesn't want to give Dean more of a burden than he knows his brother already shoulders. I just think Jared and Ruth, I think this is one of the moments where you see how well they work together in scenes like this. So this is like why I kind of chose The Rupture as a runner-up, even though it's a great scene. I feel like Jared's so very open with Rowena in a way that you just don't hear about the cage. Like you just don't. Like you don't hear about this and how awful it was. And she's very vulnerable too in that moment. And I think it says a lot about her feeling comfortable enough with the character to do that. They're just really great together when they're together. I mean, I think Rowena, as a character in general, like I hated her in the beginning, but I think that's a sign of a good actress too, and how she took on the character and then made you really care about her at the end. So Ruth Connell is just a very, I think, not given a lot of credit for her acting in this show. She's so good. She's so very good in it.
Yes.
And she elevates, I think, a lot of the people that she works with. But yeah, it was a great scene. My last one for top 5, whatever. I'm confusing myself now. Season 15, episode 17, Unity, when Dean pulls a gun on Sam. It was, so Sam, one of his lines is, "It was the one thing I could always count on." It's a beautiful echo of a recurring theme of the brothers. Sam looking up to Dean, counting on him. It's not an often bearing it all, but again, like when they do it with each other, it's really special. I think as the younger brother, he holds on to a lot of stuff without sharing. I think he's doing everything he can to convince Dean to do the right thing in this moment, not the selfish thing that they tend to always do. But in a way, this is something that will save the both of them. But it's still all about, like, this is again another moment where it's, for me, I can't stand Dean in this scene. It's very odd. It goes against all of Dean's usual programming. Sam is all in for saving the world and his family, which is something you would think Dean would be up for. So Jared just breaks my heart in this. It's one of those end of the show scenes that I think, Jared really gets a moment to just give it his all. And he really does. And it's just heartbreaking. It's just heartbreaking.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was mine for Jared.
Yeah.
So again, I thought, I was like, well, I'm not going to include this one. I'm not going to include this one. I'm always going to include this one. But yeah. So.
And then it turns out no. Karlee forgot some of the absolute peak moments.
Yeah. I had to stop because we're going to switch over to Jensen. I had to stop because I was going to continue to think of stuff. Like, I wanted to put in regarding Dean as a runner-up in the mirror. I didn't even put
Why
that.
do you keep doing this to me?
But I was like,
Jesus.
I'm not going to do it. I didn't put it in. So some of my runners-up. Season 2, episode 20, What Is and What Should Never Be. It's the
Am I not doing Jensen? My Jensen first?
No. Because we're doing whoever would be focusing more and then going into it. So that's why we're doing it this way.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. No, carry on.
Yeah. Because I figured if we do it this way, it kind of made more sense. But so for Jensen, runner up, season 2, episode 20, What Is and What Should Never Be. It's the Jin, fake dream episode. Dean talks to John's headstone. A single man tear all over the place. Again, like just like it's one of those things. Season 8, episode 14. This one's a little more obscure. It's trial and error. It's when Dean explains to Sam why he needs to be the one to do the trials. It's all this righteous sacrifice. It's Dean all over. How he's going to end up, blaze of glory, die bloody.
With a gun in his hand. Yeah.
That is my perfect ending. It's like, to make sure that you continue on kind of thing. Lots of foreshadowing, which I actually don't like about that scene in particular. But Jensen does a good job, I think, with that. The usual scene, but I think he puts a little extra into that one. Season 10, episode 2, Reichenbach. It's when Demon Dean confronts Cole. I just like how much
he's so badass.
Jensen just chews up the scenery in that scene, and it's so great. It's just over the top greatness, and he's just relishing in this embodiment of this character that I love watching that scene. I just think that's great. And then I picked season 14, episode 10. Again, these are all runners up. Nihilism. It's Michael Dean when he talks to Cass about God and burning it all down. And he's like, God doesn't care. It's one of those moments Jensen doesn't always get to play a completely different character. Again, it's scenery chewing. It's really good scenery chewing. I think he does a really good job with that. So those were my runners up. So now here's my top 5 peak acting moments, but again,
but not ranked.
No, not ranked. And
nobody call the ranking police.
I could still add another 10, I'm sure, if I was given the chance, but I had to stop.
Yeah.
So season 1, episode 16, Shadow. This is another one that has some backstory to it. It's where Sam and Dean might finally be able to kill the thing that murdered their mother. And Dean sort of just kind of exposes, like, that he wants us to be, I want us to be a family again. It's not a big scene. It's kind of innocuous in the grand scheme of the series. And, when you put it up against others in this list, I picked it because what I've heard, and it's actually just kind of recent, even though I've watched this interview before, there's an interview with Jensen from season 1 where he had a lot of difficulty believing Dean would be this open and honest about his feelings. He needed to be convinced by the director. And I think it shows his ultimate care for this character and the craft kind of so early on. Because the performance, I think when you really look at it, it's very subdued. And it's the little reactions and expressions to Sam's lines that I think say the most, not necessarily what Dean is saying in the scene. Hearing that Sam just wants to move on, Sam just wants to have a life, and seeing that aspect of it from Dean, it's just kind of very like, oh, but I just love the fact that he cared so much about this character, and he was only season 1 that he wanted to understand the why behind the scene and not just read the lines. So the fact that he took whatever, as a collaborative effort to get this to happen, but I think he still probably did it a little differently than maybe what somebody expected. And I think he did a great job with it. So
I think
again,
that's one of the things that makes the show that, that kept it on air for 15 years was the fact that these weren't just characters to Jared and Jensen. They were, real people, and they cared about them, and they weren't afraid. Even, we're in season 1, Jensen's not afraid to go, I just don't see this guy doing this. I don't think it tracks, it wouldn't be what it was if if Jared and Jensen didn't love Sam and Dean as much as we do.
Yeah. And I think it says something about the professionalism of wanting to do the job, but still needing to understand it, and still being able to like, I'll do it, but you got to explain it to me a little bit more. Like, he's like, I kind of feel like it's his, dancing monkey thing. Like, he's just like, I'm not going to do it just to do it. Like, you got to kind of like, at this situation. Yeah. We've heard about this from him before too. And I don't think we hear it often, but when we do, kind of seems important to the character. So I really like that about, I think, Jensen's approach to acting in general. And I think to see this so early on just speaks volumes about him as an actor. So props to him for standing up for Dean, being the ultimate Dean girl. You know what I mean? Like, he's just like, no, I gotta understand this. Like, I don't think this would happen. I don't think this would be a thing. So,
and again, as well, although Jensen was 26, 27, in the entertainment industry, that's still pretty young. Yeah.
And who knew what was going to happen? And like, he could have like really pissed somebody off, He
could have really, really blacklisted himself by taking that step and going, I'm going to need, I'm going to need a little bit more because I don't understand this. So that's a brave step to take.
Yeah. And I think go ahead.
Yeah, no, I know he had plenty of acting under his belt by then, and he'd learn, if you listen to Jensen talk, he says right from the very beginning, he just kept his head down and listened to what he was told. He didn't make waves. He didn't, try and be the big man on campus. He was just like, just head down and do it. And I listened and I watched and I learned, which obviously gives him confidence as he's nearing his 30s to be able to go to a director. But still, we're still really early on in the show. It's still season 1, everyone's still kind of figuring their feet, and for him to step up at that point and go, I just don't think this is right. Yeah. I think that speaks a lot to Jensen's integrity as a person. Yeah. And again, the reason that these characters are so memorable and they stay with us for so long is because they were loved by their actors from the word go. Yeah. We fell in love with them, but they were Jared and Jensen's long before they were ours. Yeah. And that's what fleshes them out and makes them more than just characters on a TV show. I think.
I think too, there was I think there was this ragtag feeling too on the show too. And directors I think have a really tough job of like having to interpret a script and bring it to life and work with like all the different pieces to make it happen.
Oh,
and
for
I'm
sure.
pretty sure this episode might have been directed by Kim Manners, which I know, Jensen and the entire, I think, crew staff of Supernatural, I think just absolutely adored him as a
Oh, yeah.
director. And I'm pretty sure like there was probably I got to double check now before I keep going. Cause I'm going to be like, if I'm talking about it and it's not him,
I gotta know. No,
I got to know.
I remember hearing Jensen talk
Kim
about
Manners.
his first directing
Mm-hmm.
debut and being like, there's all these people turning to you for what to do. And he was like, that can be really intimidating if you haven't done your homework. But because of Kim, I've done my homework and I had the answers. I know Jensen had a lot of time, a lot of respect for Kim.
Yeah. So I think the interpretation of it was something that he needed. And I'm sure there was a comfort level too at that point where like he could push a little bit more, more than maybe he could years ago. I mean, he'd been doing it at this point for almost 10 years. Yeah. Almost 10 years, probably 10 years at least. And even if it's just like little guest stars or stuff on some shows, but to know that and to see what comes out of that collaboration, interpretation, willingness, it's pretty great. So I'm glad that they had that on that show. I think that's what makes it really special too. Everybody involved in it was willing to stop and think. If somebody really had a problem, I can't say that towards the end, but I know that going into it, that was a thing.
Yeah. But we wouldn't have got to where we got to the end if the care hadn't been there at the start.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Great
My next one is season 2, episode 22, All Hell Breaks Loose Part 2.
Whoa. You could have picked any moment from this episode.
Yeah. It's when, because again, like Dean talking over Sam's dead body. He's so broken, exhausted, lost. Like you could just like the makeup or whatever that they did with Jensen is just like, he is so tired. He looks so tired. But then there's an energy to the scene. It keeps building and building, and it's just like, I had one job. Then he cries, what am I supposed to do? But then he's screaming it at the end. And there's just so much going on in that scene. And, I had one job, take care of my pain in the ass little brother. And
no, that's from the previous episode.
Is it?
Mm-hmm. That's what he says when he's on his knees in the mud. That's my job, right? To look after my pain in the ass little brother.
We're gonna watch this scene together and see after.
I'm telling you. Okay. I'm telling you.
Well, maybe he says it again because I'm pretty sure he says it again in this scene.
Maybe he says it again, but my memory of that line is from part
We're gonna
one.
watch both. We're gonna watch both after, and then we'll report back.
We're gonna find out, guys. We will finish these lists.
Watch
the episodes. We'll watch the scenes. What the heck's
going on,
and then let you know at the end of the episode.
Everything's bleeding together. But yes, there's just again, I think the part 1 and part 2. Of course, they have to go together, but it's just this continuation of he just doesn't know what to do, and and again, it's season 2.
He's baby.
It's season 2.
I have background on that scene.
Okay.
From a panel that Jared did.
Is it Jared laughing?
No.
Okay.
No. No, it's just Jared was telling a story about getting into headspaces for characters and things like that. And when they were filming this, they didn't sort of call action because it took Jensen such a long time to get into this headspace, which is perfectly reasonable.
Right.
That because they did the same thing for Jared for like Samafer. That they were just like, okay, camera's rolling whenever you're ready. Because Jensen struggled with this, which is perfectly fucking reasonable.
Yeah.
And I think I remember also reading or hearing somewhere that Jensen didn't have to think of anything sad to cry. The idea that Jared was dead, that he lost his friend was enough, which is they're only 2 seasons in. They're so fucking close.
Well, honestly, I feel like it probably would have just been like Dean knowing Sam's gone. Like to me, like I don't think that I think at those points in time, like when you see that certain acting from each of them, sometimes you can't tell what's the character and what's the actor, because I think they've incorporated so much of, like at the base level, there's a part of each of their characters that's just in them that I don't think, I don't see, even if he said he didn't have to think about anything else, I think all he had to do was Dean's with Sam's body, you know? Like I don't even think it mattered, you know?
It's been a long time. I can't even remember where I read it, but I don't even think it was imagining how Dean would feel. I genuinely think Jensen was like, no, this is how Jensen. Jensen doesn't have to think about Dean or anything else.
Right.
The concept of Jensen losing his best friend is enough. And also, I know you said like Jared laughed or something to fuck up the scene. I think Jared did everything he could
not to
make it authentic for Jensen.
Good.
Because I'm sure I remember reading that even when the camera was on Jensen, Jared was there. He didn't have to be because he wasn't in frame, but I'm sure he was there, you know, trying to make it as easy for Jensen to be in that headspace, which is, I mean, who wants to pretend that you're dead if you're not even on camera?
Right.
That sounds exhausting.
Right. Yeah. No, well, good.
Like
I'm glad.
You can't even nap. What if you snore? That's going to fuck up the scene.
I'm glad Jared did that for Jensen. I'm glad.
They is good people.
They are.
They is babies.
They are. So next one is season 4, episode 10, Heaven and Hell. I wish I couldn't feel a damn thing.
I have this GIF favorited on so many different places.
So
I use it a lot.
It's just Dean's constant struggle here. The second by second to hold on. I just think it's very apparent. He lets down the veil for a moment to give Sam the answers he's been wanting. Like I don't think anybody can really understand, even with him explaining it, to imagine what the character's gone through, you know, and then the self-revulsion he has for himself for the actions he was forced to take. It's such a gut punch, especially when he says, you know, and I said no for 30 years, you know, and then you see that and you know what that means. And then you hear him explain it. It's just like a gut punch. And he's literally, I wrote this, he's literally bathing in Dean's tears by the end. Like there is moisture all over this boy's face. Like it is just like, he's been crying and just exhausted and just over and over and over and over again. Like, do you know how many times they did that scene? Because I don't know if it was just a couple times or if he had to do a few. I would think it would have only been a couple because it probably would have been too much.
I don't know how many times they had to film it, but I do know that Jensen fucked off when it was done. He was like, I gotta walk this off, and he like took himself for a walk. You know, because that was. I mean, we joke about the Ackles perfect man tear and stuff, but
I just think it's funny because there was no single man tear in this. Like it was all tears. Like it was just like, you know,
there
starts, but then it becomes like a bath. You know what I mean?
It's not a single man tear like it is in All Hell Breaks Loose Part 2, but there is a moment when the camera is on Dean and just sounds like fuzzy in the background.
Yeah.
And he blinks and it just like one tear just like falls from his eye.
But then it's just like everything.
Then he's just soggy afterwards. The next time we come back, he's just soggy, which is baby, get in the burrito next to Sam.
Again,
go sit there.
It's just so. It's just, like sometimes I wonder, my God, I fell asleep through all of this stuff the first go round. And then like to have watched it again and to have been just like, oh my God, like, you know, to see what they were doing with these characters so early on is just amazing. Yeah. This is a random one, but I suggest people just go and watch it. I don't think it gets a lot of attention. I recently rewatched this episode. It's a really solid, good episode. Season 5, episode 18, Point of No Return. It's the one where they go back to heaven and Adam's been like, I think Adam comes back, but then Adam gets taken to heaven. So they have to go back and get Adam. So Dean's in heaven with Sam, Adam, and he faces Zachariah. And both Adam and Sam are getting, you know, basically Zachariah's whole like, you know, fist clenching. And then they're all like, you know, insides are just and all that stuff. Yeah. It's not a particularly like, I think it's memorable in the end because like, you know, of course Dean shanks Zachariah, you know, like at the end of it, but there's so many emotions that Dean goes through in that one scene. And then it's the turnaround and the wink he gives to Sam, and then the changeover again and his bravado's back. It's just so good. It's one of those scenes where you kind of ride the wave with the actor as they're giving you a little bit more, giving you a little bit more, and then you get that little aha. And it's just a really good scene. He's just great in it. He's just great in it. So I would just suggest, rewatching that. I feel like it's just not talked about as much, but it's a good scene. My last one is season 12, episode 22. Again, I could just keep going, but it's Who We Are. It's where Dean confronts Mary in the dream state. And this scene jumps between, it's an extended scene, but it goes back and forth between Dean with Mary in the dream state, trying to get her out of it because she's been programmed or whatever by the Men of Letters. And then it's Sam at the Men of Letters bunker with the hunters, like for a good few minutes. So it's a back and forth. When Dean says, I hate you to his mom, and then you see the conflict that, the conflict he's had with his parents. It's all laid bare. And I just wrote, like, why is it always dream states? I feel like this is when he just like gives it all. And it's just like, doesn't give a fuck. But he gives you a little more insight. You feel the pain in a couple of minutes, the abandonment, the responsibility he felt. And I know part of it's the writing, but it wouldn't mean anything if Jensen didn't show you all of Dean's pain and that confession. And a lot of the confession, it revolves around what Sam had to endure that he explains to his mom, and that's just his protectiveness and his love for his brother and how it goes beyond the responsibility he feels for his family. Even though they'll say, time and time again, and sometimes you don't believe it, but they put each other first above everything else. I think they really do. But he still wants to try and save his mother. He still wants to find it in his heart to forgive her and give her another chance. That's somebody so broken and still wanting to try and try and try. There's a resilience to those characters. Again, I think is why I love them so much. And Dean is like the puppy that gets kicked, but still comes back. Sometimes. That's when you want to just like be like, it's okay. You're good just the way you are. And you don't need anybody else's approval, love, care. That's hard for anybody to digest, especially these characters. But it's just such a good scene. Jensen just does so much with that. It's beautiful. I think there's a single man tear in that one, or maybe just, I can't remember for sure, but
just it's
just a light misting. But yeah. So those are my 5. I could keep going. We'll stop.
we can rank that one. We can put that one in the reason 578 that Karlee fucking hates Mary Winchester.
yes.
But that is Sandra reined herself in. She kept it to 5 and a couple of extras, but just still 5. So there's a couple of I think we have one overlap and one almost overlap. So we will hop into mine. So I'm going to save the first one on my list. Again, these are not ranked like best or worst or anything, but I'm going to save the first one on my list for the last, and you will understand why. So, Heaven and Hell, I wish I couldn't feel a damn thing. All the things that Sandra said, just, and that GIF comes up in my favorites on so many different places because I use it so much, because I fully identify with everything being so painful that you wish you could feel nothing.
Yeah.
You would give up your happiness and your joy just to make it stop. And I get that. Again, I think these might be scenes that, resonated with me real strong, more than peak acting moments, but they're peak acting moments for me. So yeah, Sandra said everything that I would have said about Heaven and Hell, and I wish I couldn't feel a damn thing. So this one's tangentially overlapped. I have the end of All Hell Breaks Loose, part 1, where he's on his knees in the mud. And it's I was thinking about this while Sandra was talking about the part of, the scene in part 2. And I think the scene in part 2 while it's powerful, this is maybe slightly more powerful to me because it's that disbelief.
Mm.
You know, and I've had to sit with grief for almost a decade, and I know intimately what that feels like. So I don't want to relive that in my relax shows.
Mm-hmm.
So for this, it was, it was the anger and the denial that was so powerful to me. And again, that is not to say that I don't think the scene in part 2 is just as fucking powerful. It's just when I think of Cold Oak and what happens,
Mm-hmm.
this is, that just the disbelief, it's going to be fine. We're going to, this, I'm going to make it okay. That's my job. Look after my pain in the ass little brother. And again, if it weren't for the fact that Jared is playing someone unconscious and they're dead, this would have equally gone to Jared, because I imagine it's probably quite difficult to go like limp and floppy like that and trust another person is not going to let you break your nose in the mud. But it's the way that he manages it and gives Jensen something so tangible and real to act against, and that, that's my job, to look after my pain in the ass little brother. Just it guts me. It guts me. So different sections of the same scene, I guess. On a lighter note,
I really wanted to include this too.
It's the cat scene in Yellow Fever. All of Yellow, if Clap Your Hands If You Believe is one of my favorite Sam episodes.
All of Yellow Fever for Jensen.
All of Yellow Fever is my favorite Dean Jensen episode. I've said it before. That is 40 odd minutes of Jensen pissing about while Jared desperately tries to stay in character. I love it. And it's funny because the part of this scene that gets talked about in cons is the snake. But it's the fucking cat.
Why don't they? I don't think it gets enough. It gets enough credit. I think
it's because Jared left during the snake scene. That's why. Sam was supposed to be on the couch with Dean, just be like, moron. But the snake came over the back of the sofa and Jared just went, nope.
Aw.
And it's like, he didn't just like leave the seat. He left the whole fucking set and ended up like at the monitors and stuff where the director is just like, no. Because it's a com video that I'll definitely be able to find. The director turns to Jared and is like, you're supposed to be out there, and he's like, nope. And they're like, okay, just zooming on Jensen a bit, So that's why that always gets talked about, and also because Jensen was afraid. And I suppose if you live in Texas where there are venomous snakes, that is not an unreasonable fear. But that is a python. It's a Burmese. It's an albino Burmese python. It gives zero fucks about you. It's just living his little python life. Moving on. Okay. They are not inherently dangerous to humans. They may try and wrap you up, maybe. But
Karlee, I'm just thinking about when you were talking about whales the other day. Like they're not necessarily like, out to get a human, but all they got to do is like, do a little echo and boom.
Your head will explode. Yeah. No, it's the danger with big snakes, like big Burmese pythons, reticulated pythons, is they get so big and so heavy. Yeah. Really heavy that they are unmanageable for one person to deal with. And it's not that the snake is actively dangerous towards a human, or that they want to eat you or anything like that. It's just that in doing snaky things, like even little snakes, they'll try and like wrap your wrist, or if you put them around your neck, they will like wrap themselves around your neck. But if they're like 2 feet long, you could just go stop that, and move it. You can't do that with like a 200-pound reticulated python. That is the danger. So that little girl, I mean, she wasn't little, she was enormous, but she gave zero fucks about Jensen. She was just like, hello, I should just investigate my little snake.
Like, this is kind of nice to be sliding down, got to admit.
She's having a nest time. But it's just that always tickles me that Jared left and Jensen was like, I'm frozen in terror. Like, she's immortal. Say hello. She's a baby. But again, they both grew up in Texas, where there are lots of venomous snakes. So a healthy fear of snakes is probably beneficial.
I think that's where you get into like what's healthy. Like, what's a healthy, healthy fear? Like, like we've all got our things.
I don't think Jared's fear of bears is healthy. That's a legitimate phobia. And I'm just like, I don't think there are bears in Texas. Somebody let me know. Are there bears in Texas? Does he have a legitimate reason to be? I know it's a phobia, but like, is he liable to run into a bear in Texas? Do they live in Texas? Somebody let me know. Somebody let me know. But that's why the snake scene gets all the attention, because they were just like, oh fuck no. But I just, because again,
the cat scene is really good. Yeah,
it's that was scary. That was pure Jensen. That was not even like he was trying to be Dean, but it just like fully was not. Could have equally gone with, who does that, Crazy People from that episode. It's like all of Yellow Fever, guys.
Yeah,
all of Yellow Fever.
It's really good.
It's great.
Yeah.
I just, give Jensen a chance to play about, and he's going to have the best time, and we're going to have the best time.
Yeah.
Now, I am real shocked that anything from this next episode didn't make it on Sandra's list, but, maybe she was trying to think.
I was thinking, I said, no,
instead of other parts.
I was also thinking Karlee is probably gonna.
Yeah, right, that's fair. Yeah, right, that seems fair. It's the bunker scene from Soul Survivor with the knife and the do it. We've all got that gif. Don't lie to me. You've got that gif saved somewhere, or it's in your favorites somewhere with the knife.
It's in my Pinterest, I think.
I think I might have it saved to my desktop. Actually, I would have to check. But again, it's one of those questions that I would really love to ask Jensen. Like, so when you directed yourself as a demon, was there a reason you chose to go with sexy for the tone of the moment when your brother presses the demon killing knife to your neck? Like, I just have questions. But it was season 10, so that was 5 years ago when the show ended. I was like 8 years ago now. He's going to be like, the fucking what now in the where? I'm never going to get to ask him. Sad times. But if you're going to a con, and you think, fuck it, I'm going to ask you, please let a model know. I want to know why that was his acting choice. But it's that whole kind of cat and mouse hunt around the bunker with the hammer. And it's like peak Demon Dean. We've seen Demon Dean pissing about in a bar with Crowley. We've seen Demon Dean with Cole when he beats the fuck out of him and he's like, I just don't care, and then this is like Demon Dean 3. This time it's personal, he's got a vested interest in this bit, and it's real powerful. It is. I love that bit. Yeah, I love that bit. Now, before we started recording this, I had not looked at Sandra's list and she had not looked at mine. So Sandra came to me and she was like, okay, so I did a Jared and Jensen together bit, and I just need you to know. And she started rolling off all the reasons why she had also included this scene. And she's like, yeah, I know that you don't. And but I just think he's did it. And I was like, you haven't looked at my list, have you? And she went, no. And I was like, yeah, no, it's on my list. So again, this does not imply that we like this episode in any way, shape, or form. Oh, I would go so far as to use the H word for this episode. But I will not hear that this was not some of the most incredible acting that Jensen has ever fucking done. And it is the barn scene from the finale. And the reason it goes to Jensen and not Jared is because that's not to say that Jared didn't do real well, but it wasn't Jared's death scene. I feel like if you give someone's death scene to another actor, that kind of implies that they did a poor job. And oh my fucking God, I bawled so hard. So hard. And just this is like, I'm not going to make it. This is it for me. I'm so proud of you. Oh,
yeah.
Babies.
Yeah.
Absolute babies. So we have discussed our thoughts on 15, 20 quite a few times, but I cannot in good faith say that is not one of Jensen's best acting moments on Supernatural. I just can't. So that is my 5. But Sandra has more notes on the barn scene.
Well,
let's hop back over to Sandra.
I just did I stopped. I did 3. I did a special shout outs because I was really trying to think of Jared and Jensen together. And I think a lot of what you've been mentioning in certain scenes where one performance is not possible without the other's presence in it in general and the acting involved in it, whether it's whatever that is. The barn scene was one of them because I think it's just it's a character culmination between these two that they they give it their all. And even though it's not Jared, it's not Sam's death scene, but he's right there with
powerful.
him. Yeah. Every line, every second of it.
We've heard it was discussed over and over and over again. They had the crew in tears. You know, it was really powerful. And I one thing that I always remember Jared saying is that he had spoken to somebody, another actor, I can't remember who it was, but they had told him that he needed to stop crying because those weren't Jared's tears, they were Sam's tears, and he needed to save them. He couldn't keep crying Sam's tears, which I think that's, I don't know, I just think there's something beautiful in that. You know, and all our thoughts on the ending and everything else that happens, that is a goodbye for Sam and Dean to each other, but it's also a goodbye for Jared and Jensen to Sam and Dean. Yeah. And that's definitely part of what makes it so powerful. And it's the show, it declined as we got towards the end. We all know that. But in this one moment, the same care that leads a season 1 Jensen to question a director over a character choice,
to then say
still
he's
right
not
there,
and to say Dean's gonna die
on his feet. Yeah. And I know there's a lot of back and forth about Jensen not being happy with the finale and things like that, but it's been 3 years, guys. It is what it is.
Yeah.
You know, we can't change it now. It's the moment of goodbye. It's just, it's so fucking powerful.
Yeah.
You cannot, as much as I like to pretend that season 15 ended on 19, and isn't that a weird episode to end on, guys? I wonder why they didn't make it a round number. I can't not give props to that scene.
Yeah.
Then cry.
I think it just it speaks to, if you're a fan of the show, I think you appreciate the journey overall, even if you don't appreciate all the waypoints they may have done along the way, or the destination. It's really the journey with these characters.
Yeah.
So I just picked 2 others. Well, one very random one. It's season 12, episode 18, The Memory Remains. It's at the very end. It's a monster of the week, but it's at the very end, and the boys talk about their legacy and carve their initials in the Men of Letters table. It's just it's sort of like this little retrospective about will people remember us and it's this back and forth between them, and then just seeing them embrace and have a small little moment of carving out their little place in the bunker between the both of them, I think it's just very sweet. It's a very sweet scene, and it's got a good balance between the two of them going back and forth together.
And then she comes and adds her fucking initials later on, and it's bullshit. That was a lot of Yorkshire in that. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Then the other one was season 11, episode 4. I just picked Baby. Yep. Any scene with them in the car, but in particular, there's that one scene in sort of the middle where, Dean's in the front, Sam's in the back. Just that conversation that they have. It's just very calm and just them. But yeah, everything in that episode where they're together, where they're singing, all of that, even though I know a lot of that's not necessarily Sam and Dean, it's just seeing how, if you didn't know that about the episode, you would think it was Sam and Dean. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I mean, it kind of says a lot about them, how much they can easily just be their characters in a moment, and I think we've talked about it on Khan's photo ops, how in a split second they can change off, kind of like how Jared's able to just switch, and they give you what you need in a scene. And I love the scene of them just in the car talking, just the quiet of it.
Yeah.
And it's just very special. Again, it's what we get with 15 years of character. And I just think it's impossible to say top, what's your absolute favorite? But I think we did our best trying to pick out some peak acting moments in it. So,
It's funny you went to that quiet moment in Baby, because the one I always think of is after Night moves, when it's like the dash cam,
mm-hmm.
and they're just driving and they're eating and they're laughing, and it's like Jared and Jensen, and then Jared reaches over for the wheel and Dean smacks his hands away and goes, hands off the wheel, and he's like, but you weren't even looking at the road. And it's that fucking quick, and then it's Jared and Jensen again, and it's just that tiny little, and we so rarely get to see them have fun, and I know that it's Jared and Jensen in that scene, and I know that they're not trying real hard to be Sam and Dean in that moment. But just that but
they're
dash
in their
cam.
DNA. It's their DNA. Like at some point, like I feel like I don't think you can embody a character for that long and not want to do it, because part of that character deep down, like you just connect with them on such a level that you're willing to have them in your life for 15 years. And then, there's no way they'd ever let them go after that. But it's just, I think it just says a lot about them, the ease of falling into a character. Kind of like how you always hear people, like, Jensen has said, like when he was at The Boys, like, people were like, no, I see Dean. Like, you don't give me Dean
Your
in this.
Dean is showing.
So I think that's a thing where, living with the character for so long, there's no way I don't think you don't have that bleed in a little bit. But I just think it's so special. And I think again, there aren't a lot of shows that do that. I know there are shows that are on for a really long time, but there aren't a lot of shows that are on for a really long time with the same actors playing the same two characters for this long. Unless it's a soap opera. You know what I mean? You don't quite get that.
But then that doesn't have the same kind of, because even like soap operas here in the UK, they switch out, like someone will be on for like a few years and then they'll go away, and we'll things are constantly being changed. And obviously the background,
you'll get some of the characters that kind of float in every once in a while that are older, like generationally and stuff, but it's like they're not the primary focus. And these guys were the primary focus for 15 years. They didn't hand over the
background's
keys
changed
to anybody. Yeah.
But it was always Sam and Dean.
Yeah.
So, but if you just bear with us, guys, we're going to go find out who was right about my pain in the ass little brother.
I don't think it's that either one was right. I think he says it in both.
I think he says it twice.
I really do. I don't know how we do this. I mean, I'm going to look on Netflix. You can look.
Okay. Do you want to, I'll look on part 1 and you look on part 2 and see if he says it.
I think you're right. He's getting ready to blow it. I don't think he says it here. No, he doesn't say it here. What does that say when everything bleeds together? No, he doesn't. He doesn't say it in this one. Okay. No, he doesn't.
Look at that. That's 2 things.
What?
That's 2 things today that I have been right about.
Yes, you get a sticker. Congratulations.
Yay! I want a sticker.
Karlee gets stickers. Because Dean does not say anything about pain in the ass little brother. And all hell breaks loose. Part 2.
Nope.
What else were you right about today?
About Patrick. Well, it wasn't right, but I got to tell you something. You were like, who the fuck is this character? And I was like, dude, it's the witch. Yeah. I want stickers. Yeah. No, so
Karlee gets sticker.
I get stickers. Dean falls to his knees and he's like, it's okay. I've got you. And then he like puts his hand and like to the cut, and he's covered in blood, and he's like, look, it's not even that bad. It's not even that bad. It's okay. I'm gonna patch you up. Don't need it's gonna be fine. You're gonna be good as new, blah, 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 blah. And then Sam's kind of like unconscious at that point, and he's like, no, because I'm gonna look after you, because that's my job, right? Look after my pain in the ass little brother. Okay. And then Sam's kind of like either dying or dead. And that's when he kind of like, he's Sam, and like, kind of like shakes him, and then we get Sammy, and then like your heart breaks, and then it goes real fucking quiet,
Yeah.
While you just watch Jensen just kind of like holding on to Sam's jackets, and then you just get safe.
Yeah.
And then it cuts out. I was right, but at what cost?
I think this is more proof that I do not remember quotes well, and that I should not be asked what people were wearing in costume situations. So there are two things that do not ask me to quote. Don't ask you to quote, don't ask me to explain what a costume looks like. So,
well,
yes.
You see, that would be the autism, because I do remember quotes and I speak in them a lot of the time. So that's not a failing of Sandra. That's a quirk of my neurodivergent brain. But with that, now we have established that I was right, and I'm not bragging because I knew I was right.
No,
I didn't need to go back and look.
No, it's one of those things where I talked to a friend of mine who's my age. I feel like I make shit up now, memory wise. Like it's just a thing. It's starting to happen.
Fill in the gaps.
Fill in the gaps, saying things happen that didn't. I'm like, I really need to stop doing that. So there we go.
But in Sandra's defense, while they are different episodes, it is a continuation of the same scene. So it is not wrong of you to connect the two. But for what it's worth, I went back and watched part 1, and Sandra went back and watched part 2. And I'm real fucking glad that I didn't watch part 2, because part 1 was enough.
No, you wouldn't have wanted to watch that. No. Okay, well, on that note,
on that bombshell, Karlee was right for once.
Are there any peak moments we forgot that you were like, Karlee?
No.
Sandra, what? No.
We didn't forget. Are there any? What would your peak moments be?
Right. Well, yeah. What are your peak moments?
I'm not taking the responsibility for forgetting half of Sam's best moments.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Well, I'll be like, is there something? Yeah. Let me know. Let me know if you're like, nope, this is my top peak acting moment.
Yeah. So let us know.
Let us know. So if you want to reach out to us, you can email us at idlingintheimpala@gmail.com. You can comment on Spotify and use the Q&A section to share your thoughts. All our contact details are on our website, idlingintheimpala.com. Go check it out.
Also, don't forget to like, comment, share, follow, and subscribe wherever you access your podcast, but especially if you are watching or listening on YouTube. That really helps us with the YouTube algorithm. All hail its benevolence. Causes that we are championing, as always, in the description. It is still around the holiday times, and holidays can suck for a lot of people, but they can especially suck for members of the LGBTQ plus community who may not have a safe place to go home to for the holidays, may not have supportive families, all that nonsense. And it's their nonsense, not your nonsense, guys. I'm with you. But in the description, you will find links to a couple of charities that you can reach out to if you need somebody to talk to. That is what they are there for. They will put you in touch with people who you can talk to, if you need that. Also, in the description, it feels like it's always ramping up to election season. Like, y'all have too many elections. But this one, this is the big one. This is the presidential election year. So keep yourself informed, keep yourself appraised, make sure you're keeping up with the rules and laws and any nonsense changes that I have no doubt will be sprung upon y'all in the coming months as that all ramps up. And to quote the Rocky Horror Picture Show, I'm going to quote that forever now. I fucking love it. It's a jump to the left, not a step to the right. Come on, guys, vote blue. Let's, y'all voted red. Not you guys, but like the people's voted red, and we're still recovering from that fucking clusterfuck, aren't we? So, blue, please. Thanks, guys. If you're in the UK, though, don't vote blue. No. I mean, don't vote red either, but definitely don't vote blue. But anyway, if you are in the USA, Sandra has provided some links to places that you can keep an eye on, like voting registrations and legislations and all those things that you need or might not need, blah, 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 blah. All that good stuff in the description. Presidential election year, make sure you're keeping ahead of the nonsense as best you can. Also, something that we are massively highlighting, and it is my sincere hope that by the time this episode is ready to be released, this section will not be needed anymore, but at time of recording in the middle of November, it very much still is. So we are championing both World Central Kitchen and Doctors Without Borders, both of whom are on the ground in the Ukraine and in Gaza. They are helping. Obviously, World Central Kitchen is feeding. Doctors Without Borders is providing medical care to people who are still trapped in the Ukraine, still cut off by Russia's unlawful invasion of the Ukraine. And of course, what's going on in Gaza is just horrific. And I'm not here to make this political. This is not, I'm not saying we're siding with Israel. I'm not saying that Hamas is in the right or Israel is in the right. This is not political, okay? There are people on the ground in Gaza and the Ukraine that did not ask for war, and they are starving, and they are cut off, and they are dying. All we are doing is drawing attention to charities that are there providing aid. I don't want to make this political, okay? I don't care what side of this conflict you stand on. People are fucking dying, and it is 2024, and that shit don't fly, okay? So, as always, if you need access to any of the resources in the description, that is what they are there for. And if you can help them keep helping others, that would be incredible. And with that, we will say thank you for joining us in the back seat, and we will see you next time, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.